Marcus Webb had been in worse situations than this. There was that time on Kepler 442b when he'd accidentally sold a shipment of medicinal herbs that turned out to be a sentient fungal colony. Or the incident on the asteroid mining station where his salvage claim had started a three-way corporate war. But standing in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, surrounded by 12 species of pompous aliens in ridiculous ceremonial robes, definitely made the top 5. Marcus Webb of Earth, High Chancellor Vexthar intoned from his elevated platform, his 3 eyes narrowing in what Marcus assumed was disapproval. Hard to tell with the Vorkathi. You stand accused of theft of a sacred relic, violation of Archaeological Preservation Statute 7 Alpha, and general disrespect for galactic heritage. General disrespect? Marcus muttered. That's not even a real charge. Silence. Judge Krelon, a mantis-like creature with way too many clicking mandibles, gestured dramatically with 4 arms. Your human insolence only proves your guilt. Marcus glanced down at his wrist where the sacred relic in question hummed quietly. The gauntlet was a beautiful piece of work, sleek silver metal that seemed to shift colors in the light, covered in symbols he couldn't read. He'd found it 3 weeks ago in a derelict ship floating in the Vale Nebula, and honestly, he just thought it looked cool. Look, Marcus said, raising his gauntlet-clad hand. I found this thing in a wreck that's been abandoned for, 5,000 years? Nobody was using it. That's literally how salvage works. The Gauntlet of Arbitration, Vexthar proclaimed, is a relic of the predecessor civilization. It belongs in the Grand Museum, not on the unwashed limb of a... He paused, consulting a datapad. Scrap monkey. Okay, that's just racist. The council chamber was designed for maximum intimidation. Towering columns of what looked like crystallized starlight, floating platforms for each of the 12 judges, and a prosecution gallery packed with bureaucrats eager to watch a human get taken down a peg. In the center, Marcus stood alone in a circular defendant's platform that felt less like a witness stand and more like a spotlight of shame. The worst part? He'd been here for 6 hours already. 6 hours of testimony about the sacred nature of the gauntlet, expert witnesses explaining its cultural significance, and a particularly boring presentation about salvage law that had made him genuinely consider pleading guilty just to end it faster. The evidence is overwhelming, Vexthar continued, warming to his rhetoric. The Chancellor was clearly enjoying this. Sensor logs place your vessel at the coordinates in question. Your own testimony admits to taking the gauntlet, and your refusal to return it demonstrates a callous disregard for... I tried to return it, Marcus interrupted. The thing won't come off. This was met with skeptical chittering from the gallery. Judge Krelon leaned forward, mandibles clicking rapidly. A likely story. The Gauntlet of Arbitration is merely inert metal. It has no locking mechanism. Yeah, well, maybe someone should have told the Gauntlet that. Marcus had tried everything. Soap, oil, that weird dissolving gel Luna had bought from a black market station. The Gauntlet stayed put, fitting his forearm like it had been custom-made, which was annoying because it made showering complicated and had already set off security alarms at 3 different spaceports. Vexthar raised all 3 of his arms in a gesture Marcus had learned, meant behold my dramatic pronouncement. The chamber fell silent. The council has deliberated, the Chancellor declared. Marcus Webb, we find you guilty on all charges. You will be sentenced to... The gauntlet exploded with light. Not literally exploded. That would have been less weird. Instead, it erupted in cascading waves of blue-white energy that shot through the chamber like lightning made of pure data. Marcus yelped and stumbled backward as holographic symbols materialized in the air around him, spinning and reconfiguring into complex patterns. The council members recoiled. Several dove behind their platforms. One of the Zephyrian judges let out a high-pitched whistle of alarm that shattered a decorative vase. And then, materializing in the center of the chamber with the confidence of someone who'd never been interrupted in their life, a holographic figure appeared. It was vaguely humanoid, composed entirely of flowing geometric patterns that occasionally resolved into something resembling a face. Its voice, when it spoke, was like a chorus of crystal bells played through a synthesizer. Arbiter 7 judicial protocol activated. Scanning proceedings. Marcus stared. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. The hologram's head swiveled toward him, then toward the council, then back to him. A progress bar appeared in the air, filling rapidly. Scan complete. Analysis. Judicial misconduct detected. Corruption index. Catastrophic. Initiating emergency override. Vexthar had recovered his composure, though his skin had shifted to a pale purple that Marcus suspected was the Vorkathi version of panic. What is the meaning of this? Guards, deactivate that technology immediately. Yeah, Marcus said, grinning despite himself. About that inert metal thing. The guards, a mix of hulking Crothan enforcers and sleek Meridian security drones, moved toward Marcus with weapons raised. The holographic figure raised one geometric hand and they stopped mid-step, frozen in place by some kind of stasis field that made the air shimmer around them. Unauthorized interference detected, Arbiter 7 announced. Protective protocols engaged. This tribunal is now under my jurisdiction. Your jurisdiction? Krelon's mandibles clacked furiously. You are a relic, a museum piece. You have no authority here. The hologram turned to face the judge, and Marcus could have sworn it looked offended if a being made of geometric light could manage such an expression. Incorrect. I am Arbiter 7, judicial enforcement system of the predecessor amalgamation. I was designed to oversee legal proceedings and ensure impartial justice. I have been operational for 12,417 standard cycles. A pause. You have been a judge for 32 cycles and have accepted bribes in 63% of your cases. The chamber erupted in shocked gasps and furious denials. Krelon reared back as if struck. That is, how dare you? I have never... Evidence logged and verified. A holographic display appeared, showing financial transactions, encrypted communications, and what looked distressingly like security footage of Krelon accepting a briefcase from a shadowy figure. Case reference: J4471, the Meridian trade dispute. You ruled in favor of the Kalros Corporation after receiving 300,000 credits and a vacation estate on Proxima 7. This is outrageous, Vexthar bellowed, but his voice cracked slightly. This trial was conducted according to proper procedure. We followed every... Negative. Arbiter 7 swiveled smoothly to face the High Chancellor. Scanning your records now, High Chancellor Vexthar. Oh dear, this is extensive. Marcus was grinning so hard his face hurt. Please, he said, don't stop on my account. High Chancellor Vexthar, Arbiter 7 continued with what Marcus could only describe as judicial satisfaction. You have embezzled 470 million credits from the Refugee Relocation Fund over the past 8 cycles. You have also falsified evidence in 17 trials, accepted bribes totaling 900 million credits, and, I am particularly disappointed in this one, deliberately delayed humanitarian aid to the Outer Rim colonies to manipulate market prices for your personal trading portfolio. Vexthar's 3 eyes went wide. His skin turned from purple to a sickly gray. That information is classified, sealed under Council security protocols. I was designing security protocols when your species was still climbing out of tidal pools. Nothing is sealed from me. Marcus laughed out loud. He couldn't help it. Sorry, he said. Not sorry at all. It's just, you guys spent 6 hours telling me how sacred this thing was, and it turns out it's basically a really aggressive internal affairs division. The gauntlet of arbitration is not aggressive, Arbiter 7 said primly. It is thorough. Pretty sure those aren't mutually exclusive. The hologram seemed to consider this. Point accepted. Now then. It turned to address the full council, its voice reverberating through the chamber with undeniable authority. I have scanned the records of all 12 sitting council members. The corruption index is... It paused, as if running calculations. Honestly staggering. I have presided over thousands of tribunals across hundreds of civilizations, and this is in the top 3 most corrupt governing bodies I have ever encountered. Top 3? Marcus asked. What's number 1? The plague lords of Antares 9, but they were actively trying to end all biological life, so the bar was admittedly low. Another judge, a floating crystalline being named Seraph, spoke up with a voice like wind chimes. This is preposterous. Even if this intelligence were legitimate, it has no standing to interrupt council proceedings. Incorrect. Arbiter 7 projected another holographic display, this one showing dense legal text. Galactic Code, Section 3, Paragraph 847. In cases where judicial corruption is detected by authorized predecessor enforcement systems, said systems are granted emergency authority to suspend proceedings and conduct immediate investigation. This code was ratified 4,000 cycles ago and has never been repealed. Because nobody thought it would ever be relevant, Seraph protested. The predecessors have been gone for millennia. Gone, yes. Forgotten, no. Our laws remain valid until formally repealed by a legitimate governing body. Arbiter 7's geometric face turned toward Marcus, which this council is demonstrably not. Marcus was starting to really like this AI. So what, you're taking over? Negative. I am conducting a proper trial. You, Marcus Webb, are now officially designated as the bearer of justice. Congratulations. I'm the what now? The bearer of justice. The individual chosen to wear the gauntlet of arbitration and serve as my physical anchor. Traditionally, bearers were selected for their integrity, moral conviction, and unwavering commitment to truth. Arbiter 7 paused. You are adequately honest, at least. You'll do. Wow, thanks. I feel so special. You should. The gauntlet has rejected 462 potential bearers since my last activation. You're the first to meet minimum standards in 8,000 cycles. Minimum standards, Marcus repeated. Again, really feeling the love here. Vexthar had recovered enough to attempt regaining control. This is absurd. Even if we accept this thing's authority, which we do not, there is no basis for silence. The single word carried such weight that Vexthar's 3 mouths snapped shut simultaneously. You declared Marcus Webb guilty of theft. However, my analysis indicates he salvaged an abandoned artifact according to standard salvage protocols. There is no theft. Furthermore, your stated intent to confiscate the gauntlet for cultural preservation is contradicted by encrypted communications showing your plan to sell it to private collectors for personal profit. More displays appeared, showing message logs, bank accounts, and what looked like auction listings for predecessor technology, highest bidder. Therefore, Arbiter 7 continued, I am declaring a mistrial. Marcus Webb is hereby acquitted of all charges, and now, the hologram seemed to grow larger, more imposing. We will conduct a real trial. The Galactic Council stands accused of corruption, embezzlement, fraud, obstruction of justice, and general incompetence. How do you plead? The chamber erupted into chaos. Guards moved to intervene but found themselves still trapped in stasis fields. Council members shouted over each other, denials and accusations flying. The gallery exploded with shocked chatter that the broadcast systems carried to every corner of civilized space. And Marcus Webb, salvage pilot and apparently bearer of justice, stood at the center of it all with his glowing gauntlet and a grin that could split planets. You know what? He said to Arbiter 7. I think I'm going to enjoy this. Excellent. Please take your position as prosecutor. We have much work to do. Wait, I'm the prosecutor now? You are the bearer. This is your function. I don't know anything about law. I will provide guidance. Just point at them and look stern. Marcus looked at the 12 terrified council members, then at the gauntlet on his arm, then back at the council. Yeah, he said. I can do that. A protective barrier materialized around him, a hemisphere of shimmering energy that pushed back the guards and created a clear space. The defendant's platform reconfigured itself, lowering Marcus to ground level while raising the council members' platforms to where he'd been standing. The symbolism was not subtle. Court is now in session, Arbiter 7 announced. Let the trial begin. Marcus had to admit this beat his usual Tuesday activities of avoid creditors and see what expired rations were technically still edible. "So," he said, pacing in front of the council's platforms with his hands clasped behind his back like he'd seen lawyers do in vids. "Where do we start? There's so much corruption here, it's like a buffet. A really gross, illegal buffet. Recommend beginning with High Chancellor Vexthar," Arbiter 7 suggested. "His crimes are particularly egregious and well documented." "Works for me." Marcus stopped in front of Vexthar's platform and looked up at the Chancellor, who was doing his best to maintain dignity while clearly sweating through his ceremonial robes. "Your Honor, wait, can I call you that now? Is that weird?" "Your Honor, wait, can I call you that now? Is that weird?" "The proper form of address is Arbiter," the AI responded. "Cool. Arbiter, I'd like to present evidence of the Chancellor's embezzlement scheme." Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, visible from every angle. Financial records scrolled past, showing the intricate web of shell companies, false receipts, and diverted funds that Vexthar had constructed over nearly a decade. The Refugee Relocation Fund, Marcus read from the display, was established to help people displaced by the Andromeda expansion. 470 million credits. That's a lot of money. It could have housed 3 million refugees, Arbiter 7 noted clinically. Instead, it purchased 17 luxury estates, a private orbital station, and a pause that somehow conveyed judgment, an extensive collection of pre-catastrophe Earth music recordings. "Wait, really?" Marcus perked up. "What kind of music?" "Jazz. Extensive amounts of jazz." "Okay, that's actually the least offensive thing I've heard so far. Still illegal, but I respect the taste." Vexthar found his voice, though it trembled. "These accusations are fabricated. I have devoted my life to public service. You charged the council expense account for a vacation that cost more than most ships," Marcus interrupted, pulling up another record. 2 million credits for a diplomatic retreat to the Paradise Rings. Arbiter, what did this diplomatic retreat accomplish? According to official reports, strengthened ties with the Paradise Rings administration. According to actual surveillance data, High Chancellor Vexthar spent 3 weeks parasailing and consuming fermented beverages. The gallery erupted in laughter. Even some of the other council members looked mortified, though Marcus suspected that was more, "Oh no, I'm next," than actual moral outrage. "Moving on," Marcus said cheerfully. "Judge Krelon, want to tell everyone about the Meridian trade dispute?" Krelon's mandibles clacked rapidly, and what Marcus had learned was the Xanthari version of nervous stammering. "That case was decided fairly. I reviewed all evidence and—" "You took a bribe," Marcus said flatly. 300,000 credits and a beach house. It was a diplomatic gift. You ruled on the case 4 days after receiving the gift. Then you went on vacation to the beach house. For a month, more displays appeared, showing timestamps, bank transfers, and particularly damning vacation photos of Krelon relaxing on a beach, while the case he'd ruled on sent thousands of workers into unemployment. The Calros Corporation, Arbiter 7 explained, wanted rights to the Meridian asteroid belt. Judge Krelon ruled in their favor despite clear evidence that they had falsified safety reports and environmental impact studies. The subsequent mining operation caused ecological damage to 3 inhabited moons and displaced 80,000 sentient beings. "But I got a beach house, so it all worked out," Marcus said in a mock cheerful voice. "Oh wait, no, that's terrible. That's incredibly, horrifyingly terrible." Krelon slumped on his platform, mandibles drooping. One by one, Marcus worked through the council. Judge Seraph, the floating crystal, had accepted consulting fees from corporations she then ruled in favor of. Councillor Thrain had sold classified intelligence to weapons dealers. Representative Kix had literally been running a smuggling operation through council shipping channels. It was like peeling back layers of an onion. If the onion was made of crime and everyone who touched it should probably be in jail. "You know what the best part is," Marcus said, addressing the chamber at large. "You were all so busy being corrupt together that you got sloppy. You didn't even try to hide it well. Arbiter, how long did it take you to compile this evidence?" 4.3 seconds. 4 seconds, Marcus laughed. 12 of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and your corruption is so obvious that ancient AI figured it out in less time than it takes me to tie my shoes. The displays continued cycling through evidence. Every bribe, every falsified report, every backroom deal. The Chamber's broadcast systems ensured that billions of beings across the galaxy were watching in real time. Marcus could see the public opinion monitors on the side screens. Approval ratings for the Council were plummeting like a ship with failed engines. Approval for that sarcastic human with the glowy gauntlet was skyrocketing. "High Chancellor Vexthar," Marcus said, returning to the first platform. "You spent 6 hours today lecturing me about respecting cultural heritage and following the law. Want to explain how you've been breaking both for the better part of a decade?" Vexthar's skin had gone through several color changes and settled on a mottled gray-green that probably indicated nausea. The pressures of leadership, difficult decisions. Difficult decisions like whether to steal from refugees or just embezzle from the education budget? Both, actually, Arbiter 7 interjected. He did both. See, that's just greedy. The other council members were starting to turn on each other, pointing fingers and making accusations. Several tried to claim they'd been unaware of their colleagues' crimes, which Arbiter 7 systematically disproved with more evidence. Judge Seraph attempted to phase shift out of the chamber and found herself blocked by the barrier. Counselor Thrain tried to delete files from his datapad, only to have Arbiter 7 recover them instantly. It was, Marcus thought, the most entertaining disaster he'd ever witnessed. "The defense would like to present a character witness," a voice called from the gallery. Marcus turned to see a familiar figure standing up, Luna Reeves, his partner and the pilot of their salvage ship. She was grinning like a Cheshire cat and holding what looked like a very illegal hacking device. "Luna, when did you get here?" "Been here the whole time. Hacked the gallery access about 3 hours ago." She held up the device. "Also hacked into the broadcast system. We're currently trending on 47,000 planets." "Technically illegal," Arbiter 7 observed. "Technically awesome," Marcus countered. "These statements are not mutually exclusive." Luna made her way down to the prosecutor's area, security barriers parting for her. "So I've been doing some digging. Turns out Marcus here, he wasn't just randomly salvaging. He's been investigating council corruption for 6 months. "I have?" Marcus said, then caught himself. "I mean, yes, I have, very deliberately." Luna shot him a look that clearly said, "Play along." "You've been tracking unusual financial transactions following leads on falsified records and the sacred relic you stole?" She made exaggerated air quotes. "That was actually recovered from a black market dealer who got it from, wait for it, High Chancellor Vexthar himself." The chamber went silent except for the sound of Vexthar's 3 simultaneous gasps. "You sold it?" Marcus turned to stare at the Chancellor. "You sold a sacred cultural relic that you then accused me of stealing. That's actually impressive levels of hypocrisy." "I needed liquid assets," Vexthar blurted, then seemed to realize he'd just confessed. "I mean, that is, it was a complex situation." "Noted for the record," Arbiter 7 said. "High Chancellor Vexthar has confessed to theft and illegal sale of predecessor artifacts." Luna pulled up her own displays, adding to the mountain of evidence. "The dealer Marcus recovered it from? He's cooperating with the investigation and has provided records of 15 other predecessor artifacts that Vexthar sold, all from the Sacred Museum collection. So just to clarify," Marcus said, "I got arrested for recovering a stolen artifact that was stolen by the person who arrested me for stealing it. Is that about right?" "Correct." "Cool. Just wanted to make sure I had that straight." The public opinion monitors were going berserk. The hashtag $Justice for Marcus was trending galaxy-wide. Several major news networks were running Council in Crisis banners. And in the center of it all, Marcus Webb, salvage pilot, accidental hero and bearer of justice, was having the time of his life. The council members had realized they were actually on trial, and their responses ranged from denial to panic to aggressive incompetence. "I invoke diplomatic immunity," Counselor Thrain shouted. his scales flushing bright red. Diplomatic immunity does not apply to criminal proceedings within your own governing body, Arbiter 7 responded. Also, you sold weapons to both sides of the Carvex war. Diplomatic immunity would not help you even if it applied. Those were legitimate defense contracts. You sold them orbital bombardment coordinates for each other's civilian centers. Thrain deflated like a punctured balloon. Judge Krelon tried a different approach. These proceedings are irregular. We demand legal representation. You're judges, Marcus pointed out. You are legal representation. We demand different legal representation. Request noted and denied, Arbiter 7 said. You had adequate time to acquire counsel before engaging in systematic corruption. Should have thought of that earlier. Representative Kix, a slug-like being who'd been mostly quiet until now, spoke up with surprising venom. This is a show trial. You've already decided we're guilty. Well, yeah, Marcus said, because you are extremely guilty, like cartoonishly guilty. The evidence could be fabricated. By whom? Luna asked from her position next to Marcus. She was clearly enjoying this as much as he was. Arbiter 7 has been inactive for 8,000 years. It didn't even know you existed until an hour ago. How would it fabricate decades of financial records, communication logs, and security footage? Kix had no answer for that. High Chancellor Vexthar stood up with whatever dignity he could muster, which was approximately none. Even if, and I am not admitting to anything, but even if some minor irregularities occurred, they were necessary for the greater good. The Council's work requires flexibility, resources. The people don't understand the complexities of. The people understand theft, Marcus interrupted. They definitely understand politician steals money meant for refugees. That's pretty straightforward. You're human. Vexthar spat, his composure finally cracking. Your species has been in space for barely 2 centuries. You know nothing of galactic governance, of the weight of leadership, of basic math? Marcus pulled up another display. Because even with my primitive human brain, I can see that 400 million credits missing from a refugee fund is bad. That's not complex. That's not a gray area. That's just stealing. Well articulated, Arbiter 7 said, which was probably the closest thing to praise Marcus had gotten from it. Judge Seraph made one last attempt at bureaucratic defense. The procedures we followed were within established guidelines. Every action was documented according to Council regulations. Yes, Arbiter 7 agreed. You documented your crimes very thoroughly. Excellent record-keeping. It makes prosecution substantially easier. That's not what You created a paper trail of your own corruption. I commend your attention to detail, though it suggests either arrogance or incompetence. Probably both, Luna added helpfully. Marcus felt a strange tingling from the gauntlet. It was responding to something. Not danger exactly, but more like anticipation. Like it wanted him to understand something. He closed his eyes for a moment, and suddenly he could feel the weight of information flowing through the artifact. Not words exactly, but impressions. Understanding. The gauntlet wasn't just a tool, it was a partner. It had chosen him not despite his sarcasm and irreverence, but because of it. Real justice, Marcus realized, couldn't come from people who'd grown comfortable in power. It needed someone who thought the whole system was ridiculous enough to call it out. Arbiter, he said quietly. Can you show them why I was really here? The full story? Are you certain? It will reveal your investigation. Yeah, I'm sure. New displays materialized, but these were different. They showed Marcus 6 months ago, receiving a message from a friend in the Outer Rim, a refugee camp administrator who'd noticed the funds weren't arriving. They showed him digging through public records, following financial trails, getting stonewalled by council bureaucracy. They showed him tracking the gauntlet not as a valuable artifact to steal, but as evidence. The dealer he'd recovered it from had been part of Vexthar's network, and Marcus had been documenting everything. You were investigating us? Vexthar's voice was barely a whisper. For months, Marcus confirmed. The gauntlet was just the breakthrough I needed. Proof you were selling off predecessor tech while claiming to protect it. I was going to turn everything over to the Independent Oversight Committee. He smiled. But then you arrested me first. Kind of saved me the trouble of filing paperwork. Luna was grinning. He's been sleeping in the cargo hold of our ship for half a year, living on recycled protein bars and cheap coffee, building a case against you. And you know what the funny thing is? Please share, Krelon said miserably. He was actually excited when you arrested him. Told me this is going to be hilarious right before the council guard showed up. I did say that, Marcus admitted. Though to be fair, I didn't expect an ancient AI to show up and do most of the work for me. I provide efficiency, Arbiter 7 said. The monitors showed real-time reactions from across the galaxy. Support for Marcus wasn't just trending, it was universal. Protests were forming outside council offices on 100 worlds. The hashtag, I'm bearer of justice, was everywhere. The public has rendered their verdict, Marcus said, gesturing to the displays. You're done, all of you. The only question now is what happens next. Vexthar looked around the chamber at his colleagues, at the evidence surrounding them, at the billions watching. Something in him broke. Fine, he said. Fine. Yes, I took the money. Yes, I sold artifacts. Yes, I falsified reports and accepted bribes and manipulated relief efforts for profit. I did all of it, and you know why? His voice rose to a shout. Because I could. Because the system is broken and nobody was watching and the people are too stupid to... Noted, Arbiter 7 interrupted. Full confession recorded. Thank you for your cooperation. That wasn't cooperation. That was a breakdown, Luna observed. I am calling it cooperation. It makes the paperwork easier. Marcus watched as the High Chancellor's public meltdown played out on every screen, broadcast to every corner of civilized space. It would become a meme within hours. The mighty Vorkathi leader, reduced to screaming confessions about his own corruption. I think, Marcus said, the defense rests. They barely started, Arbiter 7 pointed out. Yeah, that's because they're really bad at this. Can we move to sentencing? Procedurally irregular, but given the circumstances, allowable. Very well. Let us proceed to final verdicts. The council members looked at each other with the dawning realization that this was actually happening. They were going to face consequences, possibly for the first time in their lives. Marcus cracked his knuckles. Arbiter, I have some suggestions about appropriate sentencing. I am listening. Oh, this is going to be good, Luna said. Right, Marcus said, pacing in front of the council platforms like a game show host revealing prizes, except these prizes were all different flavors of justice. Let's start with High Chancellor Vexthar, since he was kind enough to provide that spectacular confession. Vexthar had slumped in his seat, his three eyes staring at nothing. He'd gone from powerful chancellor to broken bureaucrat in the span of a single meltdown. Arbiter, what's the standard sentence for embezzlement of humanitarian funds? Asset seizure, imprisonment for a period proportional to the crime, and permanent bearing from public office. Sounds good, but I think we can get creative. Marcus grinned. He stole money meant to help refugees. So how about this? All his assets, every estate, every credit, every jazz recording, get liquidated and put into a new, properly monitored refugee fund. And he spends the next 20 years working in the refugee camps he defunded. Not running them, actually working. Sorting supplies, cleaning facilities, building shelters. Poetic, Arbiter 7 observed. I approve. You can't be serious, Vexthar gasped. Oh, I'm very serious. You wanted to know about the weight of leadership? Try carrying building materials in 100-degree heat. Luna jumped in. And make sure it's all documented. I want a reality show. Keeping up with the war criminal would be huge. Noted. Chancellor Vexthar, you are hereby sentenced to complete asset forfeiture and 20 standard cycles of mandatory humanitarian service. Your contribution will be publicly documented. The chamber erupted in applause from the gallery. Vexthar looked like he might pass out. Next up, Marcus said, moving to Judge Krelon's platform, the judge who took bribes and sent thousands into unemployment for a beach house. Please, Krelon chittered weakly. I have a family. I made mistakes, but You have a beach house, Marcus corrected, which, by the way, is being seized, along with everything else. You're going to spend the next 10 years as a public defender in the Outer Rim, representing the kind of people who got screwed over by judges like you. No pay except basic living expenses, and you're going to be good at it because Arbiter 7 will be monitoring your case outcomes. Every single case, the AI confirmed. Krelon's mandibles drooped so low they nearly touched the floor. Marcus worked his way through the council systematically. Judge Seraph, who'd taken corporate bribes, got assigned to audit those same corporations for the next 15 years, turning over every stone, finding every irregularity, with full authority to prosecute. You wanted consulting fees? Congratulations, you're now a full-time whistleblower. Counselor Thrain, the weapons dealer, got sentenced to disarmament work, personally dismantling the weapons he'd sold, clearing minefields, and conducting peace negotiations in the very war zones he'd profited from. You armed both sides? Great, now you get to clean up the mess. Representative Kix, the smuggler, received perhaps the most fitting sentence: customs inspector. 20 years of checking cargo manifests, searching ships and processing the exact kind of paperwork he'd spent years circumventing. I hope you like forms. There are so many forms. Each sentence was tailored, personal, and deeply humiliating in a way that felt appropriately karmic. The gallery was eating it up. Several news organizations were already putting together "Where Are They Now" packages for future follow-up coverage. Luna leaned over to Marcus. You're enjoying this way too much. Am I, though, because I feel like I'm enjoying it exactly the right amount? Bearer Webb has demonstrated excellent judgment in sentencing, Arbiter 7 said. Restorative justice with deterrent effect, most efficient. When they reached the last council member, Marcus paused. This one, Counselor Yara, a quiet Severian who'd been implicated in falsifying safety reports, looked genuinely remorseful, or at least more remorseful than the others. Arbiter, what did Yara actually do? Falsified safety reports for mining operations on 4 Outer Rim asteroids, accepted minimal bribes totaling 30,000 credits. No casualties resulted, but workers were placed at significant risk. Minimal bribes, Marcus repeated. That's almost insulting. You sold out workers for the cost of a used shuttle? Yara's voice was small. I was in debt. The council positions don't pay as well as you'd think, and I had medical expenses for my bonded mate. I knew it was wrong, but She stopped. There's no excuse. I'm sorry. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. The gauntlet hummed on his arm, and he could feel something from it. Not quite approval, but acknowledgement. Sometimes justice was about punishment. Sometimes it was about rehabilitation. 5 years, he said. 5 years as a safety inspector for mining operations. You'll personally inspect every site you falsified reports for, implement proper protocols, and train new inspectors. Your salary goes to the families of workers who were endangered, and you publicly apologize to every single person who worked those sites. Yara nodded, tears in her eyes. Thank you, I'll do better, I promise. You better, because Arbiter 7 will be watching. Always watching, the AI confirmed cheerfully. With the sentencing complete, Marcus turned to address the full chamber. The protective barrier was still up, keeping the chaos at bay, but he could feel the weight of billions of eyes watching through broadcast feeds. So here's the thing, he said. The council is dissolved effective immediately. You 12 will carry out your sentences under the supervision of an emergency oversight committee, which, fun fact, already existed, but was never actually allowed to do anything because you all blocked them at every turn. The oversight committee will manage galactic governance until proper elections can be held, Luna added. She'd been doing research on her datapad. Elections monitored by independent observers from multiple species who aren't corrupt. That's going to narrow the field considerably, Marcus muttered. Galactic restructuring will take approximately 18 months, Arbiter 7 calculated. In the meantime, Bearer Webb will serve as justice enforcement. Marcus froze. Wait, what? You are the bearer. This is your function. I thought I was just prosecuting these guys. I have a salvage business to run. Your salvage business can wait. The galaxy requires your service. Arbiter buddy, friend, ancient, omnipotent AI, I'm not qualified to be space judge. You have proven otherwise. The gauntlet chose correctly. The gauntlet pulsed with warm light as if agreeing. Marcus looked down at it with betrayal. I thought we had something special. This feels like a trap. It is not a trap. It is a responsibility. Those are the same thing. Luna was trying not to laugh. Marcus, you just took down the most powerful governing body in the galaxy using sarcasm and a prehistoric lie detector. You're absolutely qualified. That doesn't mean I want to do it permanently. The gallery was watching this exchange with obvious amusement. Even the disgraced council members were looking vaguely entertained by Marcus's panic. Vexthar, despite everything, managed a weak smile. Not so enjoyable now, is it? The weight of responsibility? Oh, shut up. You're going to spend the next 20 years sorting food rations. You don't get to be philosophical. Bearer Webb, Arbiter 7 said with what Marcus was learning to recognize as its version of patience. The position is not permanent, only until proper systems are restored. 18 months. 18 months of what exactly? Investigating corruption, ensuring justice, being present at trials where my expertise is required, occasionally making sarcastic observations about bureaucratic incompetence. That last one does sound fun, Marcus admitted. Also, Luna pointed out, you'll have diplomatic immunity, access to classified information, and a salary that's probably better than salvage work. How much better? She showed him a figure on her datapad. His eyes widened. That's okay. That's significantly better. Additionally, you may retain your salvage vessel and continue minor operations in your spare time. I am not unreasonable. Marcus looked at the gauntlet, at Luna, at the remains of the council, at the billions watching across the galaxy. He thought about the refugees who'd been denied help, the workers who'd been endangered, all the people who'd been victimized by a system that had stopped caring about justice. Fine, he said, but I'm doing it my way. No boring speeches, no diplomatic double talk, and if someone's guilty, I'm going to say so. Acceptable. And I'm keeping the ship. Already agreed. And Luna's my partner in this. She gets deputized or whatever the space equivalent is. Hey, Luna protested. I didn't agree to... You are now deputy bearer, Arbiter 7 announced. Congratulations. Oh, come on. Welcome to the team, Marcus said with a grin. Misery loves company. The chamber erupted in applause and cheers. Somehow, despite everything, they'd managed to turn a corruption trial into a moment of genuine hope. The old system was broken, but maybe, just maybe, they could build something better. High Chancellor Vexthar was being led away by actual non-corrupt security forces when he turned back to Marcus. You know, you're going to fail. The system is too big, too complex. One human with a fancy glove can't fix everything. Marcus met his gaze steadily. Probably not, but I can sure as hell try. And unlike you, I'm actually going to try. Vexthar had no response to that. As the former council members were escorted out to begin their sentences, Marcus stood in the center of the chamber with Luna beside him and Arbiter 7 hovering nearby. The gauntlet pulsed with steady light. So, Luna said, bearer of justice. That's going to look great on business cards. I hate you so much right now. No, you don't. No, I really don't. Marcus looked at the gauntlet one more time. Arbiter, just one more question. Yes? When you said the gauntlet rejected 462 potential bearers, what happened to them? Minor electrical shocks, nothing permanent. And if I'd been rejected? Significant electrical shock, probably permanent nerve damage. Marcus stared at the gauntlet with new respect and a touch of fear. You know what? 18 months doesn't sound so bad. A wise conclusion. 3 weeks later, Marcus was in the cargo hold of his ship, the reasonable excuse, trying to explain to Arbiter 7 why he couldn't just arrest someone for vibes. I'm telling you, that station commander was sketchy. Sketchy is not a crime. It should be. Did you see his face when I asked about the fuel logs? Classic guilty face. You cannot prosecute someone for having a guilty face. Luna walked in carrying 3 containers of station food. Still arguing about Port Meridian? He's being unreasonable, Marcus said, gesturing at the holographic AI. I am being legal, Arbiter 7 corrected. There is a difference. The station commander was definitely embezzling, Luna said, handing Marcus his food. I hacked his files while you two were arguing. Want to see the evidence? Yes, Arbiter 7 said immediately. That's exactly what I mean, Marcus said around a mouthful of noodles. We're a good team. I provide hunches, Luna provides illegal hacking, and Arbiter provides the legal framework to make it all official. The fact that this system works is deeply troubling to me, the AI admitted. The gauntlet had become a permanent fixture on Marcus's arm. He'd tried to take it off exactly once in the past 3 weeks, just to see if it was possible, and received what Arbiter 7 had called a gentle reminder shock that had made his teeth chatter. The job itself was weird. Some days he was presiding over corruption trials with Arbiter 7's guidance. Other days he was investigating reports of abuse of power or tracking down smuggling rings. And occasionally, when they had downtime, they still did salvage runs because Marcus refused to let his actual career die completely. You're trending again, Luna said, checking her datapad. Someone made a compilation of your best courtroom roasts from the past 3 weeks. It has 40 million views. Which one? The one where you told that Croathan admiral his defense strategy was impressively stupid and asked if he'd learned legal theory from a fortune cookie. That was a good day, Marcus agreed. A chime sounded from the ship's communication system. Arbiter 7's holographic form shimmered as it accessed the data. Incoming priority message. Corruption allegations against Trade Minister on Proxima Station. Evidence suggests embezzlement and fraud. Your presence is requested. Marcus groaned. Another one? It's been 3 weeks. How is everyone this corrupt? The galaxy is large and morality is apparently optional for many sentients, Arbiter 7 observed. Can we at least finish eating first? The minister is currently attempting to flee jurisdiction. Of course he is. Marcus set down his food and stood up, the gauntlet automatically activating with a warm glow. Luna, set course for Proxima Station. Already done. We'll be there in 6 hours. 6 hours? That's barely enough time for a decent nap. You complain extensively for someone who voluntarily accepted this position, Arbiter 7 noted. I complain because I care. It's my love language. As the reasonable excuse's engines powered up and they jumped to FTL, Marcus settled into the co-pilot seat next to Luna. The gauntlet hummed on his arm, already pulling up files on the Proxima Station situation. You know, Luna said, when we started salvaging together, I never thought we'd end up as galaxy-famous justice enforcers. I'm not famous. Arbiter 7's famous. I'm just the guy attached to it. The bearer of justice is fundamental to my operation. Do not diminish your role. See, even the AI thinks you're important, Luna said. The AI also thinks sleep is optional, and that threatening people with electrical shocks is motivational. It is motivational. You are always motivated to cooperate after a warning shock. That's called fear, Arbiter. That's literally just fear. They bickered like this for the next hour, reviewing files and building their case against the trade minister. It was comfortable, familiar, and absolutely nothing like Marcus had imagined his life would become when he'd found a weird glowing gauntlet in a derelict ship. The monitor showed the public feed, still scrolling with updates about the council trials, the Emergency Oversight Committee, and speculation about when proper elections would be held. The hashtag, bearer of justice, was still trending. Someone had made action figures. I want royalties on those action figures, Marcus said. You are a public servant. Merchandising rights are waived. That seems illegal. I am the literal embodiment of legal authority. It is not illegal. Luna snorted with laughter. You two are like an old married couple. We are a partnership of mutual respect and shared purpose. I'm being held hostage by a judgmental bracelet. These statements are not mutually exclusive. The ship hummed through hyperspace, carrying its unlikely crew toward another case. Another corrupt official, another opportunity for justice served with maximum sarcasm. Marcus looked at the gauntlet on his arm, glowing softly in the dim light of the cockpit. 18 months, Arbiter 7 had said. 18 months of this weird new life, and then he could go back to simple salvage work. But as he reviewed the files on the trade minister, another powerful figure exploiting their position, another case of people being victimized by a broken system, Marcus felt the gauntlet pulse with warm approval. It knew what he was thinking before he did. Arbiter, he said quietly, after the 18 months, after the galaxy gets back on track, what happens to you? I return to dormancy, waiting for the next time I am needed. That sounds lonely. It is efficient. What if... Marcus hesitated. What if I kept you active? Not doing this full time but available, for the cases that need it. There was a pause. The hologram seemed to consider this. You would voluntarily extend our partnership? You're annoying and judgmental and you won't let me take naps, but yeah, we're pretty good at this, seems a shame to stop. Noted. I find your sarcasm informative and your moral compass surprisingly accurate for someone who eats expired rations. That's the sweetest thing you've ever said to me. Luna was grinning. So we're doing this? Long-term space justice? I guess so. Part-time, though. I'm not giving up salvage completely. Acceptable. I have learned that humans require multiple sources of purpose to avoid what you call existential dread. You're learning. I contain 12,000 years of accumulated knowledge. I was always learning. The ship dropped out of hyperspace near Proxima Station. It was a massive commercial hub, glittering with lights and surrounded by hundreds of docked vessels. Somewhere in there, a corrupt trade minister was probably panicking about now, having received word that the bearer of justice was en route. Right, Marcus said, standing up and rolling his shoulders. The gauntlet flared brighter, ready for action. Let's go ruin someone's day. With justice, Arbiter 7 added. Obviously with justice. That's literally our job description. I'm just ensuring clarity. You know what's not clear? How I ended up here. 3 months ago I was avoiding debt collectors and eating protein paste. Now I'm a galactic celebrity with an AI partner and action figures. Life is unpredictable, Arbiter 7 observed. You're 12,000 years old. That's the best wisdom you've got? I also have extensive knowledge of jazz music, thanks to High Chancellor Vexthar's confiscated collection. Would you like to hear my analysis of Miles Davis? Absolutely not. Your loss. Luna guided the ship toward a docking bay, transmitting their credentials. The station's automated systems welcomed them with the kind of nervous enthusiasm that suggested someone had definitely warned them about the bearer of justice's arrival. Marcus checked his reflection in a console screen, making sure he looked appropriately intimidating. The gauntlet helped. It glowed with an inner light that made him look like some kind of cosmic cop, which, technically, he now was. How do I look? Like a salvage pilot playing dress-up, Luna said. Sufficiently authoritative, Arbiter 7 countered. The gauntlet compensates for your general lack of gravitas. You guys are the worst support team ever. We are the only support team you have. That's what makes it so sad. The ship settled into its docking clamps. Through the viewport, Marcus could see station security waiting. Actual, hopefully non-corrupt security this time. They looked nervous. Good. All right, Marcus said, cracking his knuckles and feeling the gauntlet respond with a surge of energy. Let's go be justice, or whatever it is we do. We enforce accountability and restore faith in institutional integrity. I was going to say make bad guys nervous and occasionally electrocute them, but yours sounds more professional. That is why I handle the official statements. Marcus Webb, salvage pilot turned bearer of justice, walked down the boarding ramp of the reasonable excuse with his partner Luna beside him and an ancient AI on his arm. The trade minister of Proxima Station was about to have a very bad day. And honestly, Marcus was going to enjoy every minute of it. Somewhere across the galaxy, in a refugee camp on the Outer Rim, former High Chancellor Vexthar was sorting supply crates and cursing the name of Marcus Webb. His meltdown during sentencing had become the most watched video in galactic history. His jazz collection was being auctioned off to fund refugee assistance. Justice, it turned out, had a sense of humor, and Marcus Webb, against all odds and his own better judgment, had become its favorite comedian.